Afternoons on ABC Radio. We're taking a look at science this afternoon with Tanya Ha. Let's have a look at the whole idea of finding fossils, because we talk about fossils a fair bit on the program, and science that's done by the community. So this is a wonderful thing to do, and people are so involved with it now.
They are, and it's actually like when you were off gallivanting, having time off, and I was here a fortnight ago while you were sipping, sort of a mocktail under a palm tree, I presume. We talked about a fossil that was found on Victoria's coastline where there's been a bit of erosion that turned out to be Australia's oldest bird. That's something that kind of it did look like it was halfway between dinosaurs and birds, an ancient Gondwanan fossil. And it is a time of year when we're out and about on holidays. Some people, they join fossil hunting expeditions as volunteers, or sometimes people just stumble across, an interesting looking rock, have a closer look at it, and it might be a fossil or an Indigenous artefact. And it's not just people on holidays as well. There's also people who live on a farm, for example. There might be things that they unearth on their property, or that maybe their parents or grandparents have found on their property, and it might have a bit of a story behind it, but that actually might be of great interest to archaeologists or paleontologists.
So can you just pocket it?
No. No, you can't.
I'll pop that in my pocket and nobody will know, and then I'll just show people, and it'll be a wonderful thing, a nice story to tell.
What you can do is you can take a photograph.
Okay.
And take a photograph, because nowadays, with our smartphones, it can, if you've got location services turned on, it can geolocate it as well, which is really useful information for example, the people at Museums Victoria. And you can show them that picture and say, is this something interesting? And this is where I found it. But leaving it on site or in situ is something that means that the site's not disturbed. So there might be, other, if it's a fossil, there might be other fossilised remains there. Another thing is that if it's an Indigenous artefact, so one of the things that pops up are sort of like stone tools and cutting implements, then that's a part of traditional culture, Indigenous culture. And so in that instance, it might be the local Indigenous Land Management Council that might be, or traditional owner groups. They would be the people who are interested in, this is, effectively their family history. And, it's sort of someone else's family history, taking it off and putting it in your pocket and bringing it home, not so good. But if you can take a photo, you might want to sort of put your hand next to it or something of known size, next to it to give a sense of scale. Then that's something that you can do to help scientists or cultural, Indigenous representatives identify.
But does that mean then that somebody from the local Indigenous community may come and have a look at it and work out what it is? Or if it's a fossil, then the appropriate people will come. Will they then take it away, or will they then turn it into a site?
It very much depends on the individual item.
Okay.
And it also, I know that because you're just so adorable, you get listeners from interstate as well. So I will say that, there are different rules in different states and territories around Australia. And so that's where there's a website that was set up by someone called Sally Hurst, who I think she's currently doing a PhD, but she's done archaeology and paleontology at an undergrad level, and is dinosaurs are her thing. But people ask her, I've found a fossil, what should I do? What should I do with it? And she realised she didn't know. So she set up this really good website, which has found a fossil, and people can visit that. So it's foundafossil.com. You can visit that, and that gives us a sense of, what to do if it's a fossil, or what to do if it's an Indigenous artefact, and what the laws are in your own state or territory, because they are different. So, for example, in Victoria, you're not allowed to pick up things, dig for things. Some things you can pick up from the surface, some things you can dig for, but that's different to rules in other states. And so not only does she list the different places you can get information, she also does a good job at giving the legalities in lay terms, because you know what legislation can be like.
Shocking.
Yeah. But I think the four sort of key simple bullet points that they give on the site is get permission, and particularly in the case of Indigenous artefacts, do not disturb the site. Record the details, collect responsibly. Some things you can take with you, but get the guidance depending on your state or territory.
Yep.
And seek advice, but it's people find things like sort of Sally was interviewed by Robin Williams not by Robin Williams, but she was interviewed on The Science Show, which is hosted by Robin Williams. And she tells a lovely story that she went on a dig, as they call it, in Canada, where, she found a long bone of a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And she was so excited. And then they started sort of gently looking around the area, and that bone led to the next bone, which I'm there thinking it reminds me of that song, and the knee bone's connected to you, etc. And so she's telling, her colleagues there, this is really great. And then she was disappointed that they didn't mark it off and immediately plan to unearth this skeleton, because they already had what they knew to be 6 probably complete skeletons in Canada that were already in the process of and in better condition, not as weathered. So they were kind of nice bone there, might get around to that.
So if people are interested, they can go to www.foundafossil.com.
Yes, that's the one.
If you've been lucky enough to do that. Look, thank you, as always, Tanya, for bringing us those stories.
My pleasure.